Good evening.
All right, we are recording.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming this evening. I really do appreciate it. Hope you come back often. Tell your friends about us. The train show is scheduled for September the 19th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We have our train show for vendors only training on September the 13th at 7 p.m. And that'll just be for the vendors so that we can try to make sure where everybody is and that we're all on the same page going into this. If any of you are new this evening, welcome. And if you haven't given Dylan your name, scale, and email address, please do. And we'll include you in the future mailings, and you'll know what our events are and so forth. Dylan is looking at starting to live stream our Zoom events on YouTube in addition to having them on Zoom. The reason that we're looking at this is to try to broaden the audience. Right now, all of our marketing that we've been doing has been limited to Facebook groups. The reason that we've added 2 new members of our team, Andrew Michael Dietz and Marshall Stull, is to try to improve our marketing and increase the amount of people that we have participating in our Zoom shows. And as part of that marketing, we're looking at doing a live stream. We think that this is a good idea. We're going to be looking at it very, very heavily in the next week or so, and we'll be able to tell you more about when we can start it. But that's what we're thinking of doing. We think that that'll be easier for some people than going through Zoom, where they can just go straight to the YouTube live stream. The disadvantage for them is that if they want to participate by asking questions or so forth, the only thing that they'll be able to do is to give a question over chat, and then somebody will have to be on the Zoom meeting to ask their questions and so forth as if they were on the Zoom part. All of us that are on the Zoom meeting will be able to ask the question directly as we have been in the past. So with all of that said, our featured modeler tonight is everybody that's here. This is your evening. We're looking forward to seeing what you're building, seeing what your modeling interests are, what scale you model. And we can't thank you enough for being here this evening and participating. Chris Kos is the moderator for this. He came up with the title, My Build. And Andrew, one of the new members of our team, is going to be working with Chris. We're going to be trying to extend it to some model railroads, as well as just the models itself. And we're really looking forward to improving this and making it even better in the future. Tonight is our first one. So with that said, Chris, I'll turn it over to you and start it off.
All right, well, thanks, Jim. Like Jim mentioned, the featured modeler is you tonight. So I think for those that have been on here before, you remember how we do this, and hopefully somebody can step up and get us moving, get us on our way. So is there anybody that would like to start out this evening?
Well, I've got something. It's more of a my repair. And it's minor stuff, luckily. This thing here, now, spoiler alert, I do ON30. I'm one of those weird guys who likes running O-scale trains on HO scale track. That spoiler out of the way, I picked this up maybe a month or 2 ago. Somebody took one of the Bachmann consolidations, and they basically ripped the superstructure off, kept the cab, and then built everything else from scratch. So this tank, it's brass sheet. This bunker, brass sheet. Somebody did some fantastic work with this. But a few little things broke loose on the way here, like the headlight. I don't know how well you can see that moving around. The generator kind of wobbles around, so they got to be tacked back down. I need to go through and test run this, as I haven't test run this before because my wiring for my track fell apart. Whoops. It is what it is. But basically, it's go through it, tune it up, and make sure it works because I haven't run it before, and it apparently was a shelf model for quite some time. Not that it shows it. Whoever built this, and I got it when I built it, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. So if for some strange reason you're in here, I do apologize. But just a few little things I need to tidy up with it to make it look right. I want to go through, and there is one spot. I'm trying to flip this around without dropping it. Let me see. I had a pointer thing. Hold on, let me put this down real quick. But right around here, it looks like something might have, I don't know if this is just a sign of damage from when it was shipped or if something happened to it at one point. Either way, my thought is I'm just going to leave that alone for right now because this is all brass sheet. I don't want to strip the paint and then try to redo it so it matches because this is all weathered too. I don't know what he used for weathering, so I don't want to try and redo it and then it just looks like crap. The little things is what I'm going to focus on fixing on this, just fixing the stuff back in place so you can tell, so when it's running, you don't have a light wobbling around or the generator doesn't fall off, stuff like that. I know what he was trying to build, and he did a very good job building it, is he was trying to build a logging tank engine, like what you would see from the Mikado tanks in like the Pacific Northwest. And he did a very good job of it. Now it's an 080. I could care less. It's very well built. Exceptionally. Whoever built this deserves a medal as far as I'm concerned. Because, the only thing that he really reused was the running gear and the cab. Everything else has been either scratch built or heavily modified to the point that I can't tell if it's the original or not. Not bad at all. That's not bad. The only other thing I've got is this little. Sorry about that. Wasn't expecting the dogs to start yelping. Anyway, other thing I've got here is just a little Bachmann Porter. Nothing fancy. Sorry about that. Again. I just picked up a little Porter. I actually have a second one because for us in ON30 world, Backwoods Miniatures, while he may be out of production right now because he had closed up shop, he basically has to take care of his wife, so he had to prioritize, which is fine. That his kits are basically unobtainium. And what do I mean by unobtainium? I mean the kits that have been, you can either find it and it's already been built, or you just find that random kit that somebody had in their collection and it costs you an arm and a leg. I lucked out here in that there was a whole second kit in this thing. I just bought this on eBay for like $100. And it's not even like it's a very fancy kit. It's all resin castings, very well done resin castings, I might add. To the point where I was wondering, wait a minute, do I know who cast these? Because this is his quality work. And I open it up, and there's white metal parts in there. I'm looking at it. I'm like, this is a saddle tank. What's this too? And then I remembered, oh, wait a minute. He did a white metal kit to replace the saddle tank on the Porter with a flat top tank. It's, a more modern one. Well, I've got all the parts for that in there too. And I'm like, I just lucked out. I just had a second kit. I didn't even expect to get it. So I did have a second Porter that I bought, someone did something to it. I don't know what, because the cylinders are not sitting square. So I think I may just find where I can get the parts. I may just get a new front pilot with a cylinder assembly and just drop it on the locomotive. Because the old style Bachmann ones were all clipped together plastic. So easy to replace. It's just a matter of I need to see if I can get the part from Bachmann and then swap it out and be done with it. But the idea is to build both of them. I may need a third because there's a kit I'm working on, and I realized, crud, the other kit I built on one of those is I can't really tear that apart. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, basically that's what I got going. Some of you who were in the show where we did with Chris when I was in West Virginia might remember that rail truck I was working on. I'm let's just say that has turned into the rail truck from hell. and I don't mean, and the problem I had is when I epoxied just a long story short, I was using electrical epoxy instead of solder to fix the wires to the motor board. Well, one of the wires broke out of there, so I'm like, okay, got to fix that. And then the other one just slid right out of cured epoxy, and I'm like, I need to make a whip. So I got to make a whip to go on it, and splice the wires together, and hide them in the cab, which there's plenty of room to, so that's not a big deal. It's just a matter of I went looking for my wire, and I don't have the right wire, so I have to order the right wire, so it's not way overkill and wire that's 3 times the thickness of the little whip on the motor. Fun stuff, right? But that's basically me right now. I'm sure there are plenty of other people in here who have stuff going on, so have at it.
Yeah, so who's next? Thanks, Dylan.
I'll go ahead and show what I just finished this afternoon. It's only railroad related in that it will be next to my layout, but I just finished a little diorama that it's probably too big and the light isn't enough to really show everything, but and the trees aren't glued down yet because I'm not sure where I want to put them, but it's got a couple of the Conowingo kits on it, and it started because I wanted to have a reason for the sagging bridge to be sagging, and now I have the reason. If you could see the supports underneath it, you'd know why.
Yeah, it looks great.
It does look good.
So that's it. I just finished that. The next thing I'm starting on is a scratch built O-scale thing that I've never scratch built an O-scale before, so I'll be buried for a while. That's it.
All right. Well, thanks, Greg. Who's next?
I've got a diorama. The first diorama I did, if you want to see that one, it was a kit from Sierra West, HO scale. I drag it over here because I have wide angle camera. It's hard to get detail. I don't know if you see that well. I don't know how well you can see that one.
Yeah, I can see it.
There you go. There you go. Anyway, this is board-on-board construction. It's all take every piece of lumber that you have in the kit, and 1/3 of it I scribed it with a razor saw for grain, and 1/3 on a steel bristle brush, and another third for the brass bristle brush. Then you sand it, and then put a stain in there, like a vat. Has about 20 ounces of water mixed with 3/4 of a teaspoon of polyscale grimy black, 3/4 of a teaspoon of oily black, 3/4 teaspoon of railroad tie brown, and 1 teaspoon of black India ink. And I put that in the vat and just leave the stuff there for a minimum of 8 hours. Then I pull about 1/4 of it out and leave the other 3/4 there still in the vat for at least 12 hours, and then take more out, and then another 18 hours, then take more out, and a full day. Then everything let everything dry, and then I used a grout sponge for daubing on a reddish color on each board individually, and I also scribed in a bunch of knots and cracks and splits and stuff like that. And you can't see a lot of the details in here. For example, there's a mailbox right in here with a red flag on it, and over here there's a chain with a little sign on it, "Keep Out," which is spelled KEYPOUT. People can't read anyway. And I added shutters in there and so on. There's more to it here. And then added the A-frame hoist in there of the V8 engine down here and a bunch of little parts. And this is a junkyard, pretty much. These right in here, there's a bunch of automobiles. They're all made from plasters. Chooch had a junkyard thing, and I made a mold of it, and then I, just use plaster from that, and some other junk pieces around in there. And this adds some other junk around here and there. Yeah. Anyway, that was my first diorama I've ever done.
That's really nice, Bob.
Thanks.
I mean, we can't see the close-up detail, but we can sure see there's a lot there.
Yeah, it's too bad because it's you miss all the detail. Yeah.
Quick question for you. I know, well, when you're talking about the different colors that you mix together,
Yeah.
one thing Greg and I had been talking about at one point was, in order to age wood, we were looking at the possibility, I found it on the internet somewhere, of using steel wool and vinegar. I was wondering if you've tried that and if you had any luck with it.
Well, for the aluminum siding, the rib seam roofing and the corrugated roofing, I use the Etchers Radio Shack ferric chloride, and but it did try to do it with the vinegar and Clorox and salt, and I ruined about $30 worth of things and threw it all in the garbage. I tried a bunch of other things with vinegar and things, but this does not work. I love the ferric chloride. Get a nicer rusty color. This roofing now, mind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob, I did a roof for a barn that I was building where I used the ferric chloride, and it's kind of dangerous stuff, but it's fun to work with when you boiling and then you pull it out at just the right moment. It's very interesting to work with.
Yeah, I have a cute little story. You want to hear it about the ferric chloride, the Radio Shack in town here. This book, 15 years ago. I was in there and I said, "You got ferric chloride by chance?" He said, "Geez, we're just going to have to get rid of it because it's a hazardous chemical and I don't know how to get rid of it." I said, "Well, you're in luck. The job that I have, I'm get rid of the hazardous waste stuff. So I'll take off your hands for it if you like. I'll do us a favor, I won't charge you." So he gave me about 3 gallons of this stuff.
You have a lot of roofs to do.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If I can interject, where you were trying the vinegar, it may just not have been weak enough, and you can buy acetic acid, which is the main ingredient in vinegar.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that'd be more concentrated, and that might help you with what you're trying to do.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't know if anybody can see this, but that is what happened when I tried it. I let it go. I don't know. When did we talk about this? Like 2 months ago, maybe, Greg?
Yeah.
I started this, and I found this the other day, and I was like, "What in the world is that?" And then I smelled it, and it's got a vinegar smell to it. And like, oh yeah, now I remember what that is. So it forms this unique. What's that stuff? Stuff that flakes very easily, like fool's gold. It's about
Mica?
what it looks like.
Mica?
Mica, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I found that and was like, what the? So I was just wondering if maybe it was just me or if I was doing something wrong or what. But All right. Well, thanks, Bob. Who's next? Fred, you look guilty.
It's just too much of a hassle to bring up way I got the camera set up on this thing. I gotta use my monitor is actually the big screen TV,
Yeah.
and the computer, the screen for it is out of whack. The cables are deteriorating, so that's why I'm fade in and out at times. They're not up there. So it's just too hard to put anything up there.
All righty.
Well, I know Jim had some pictures he sent me.
Yeah, you put a couple of them up there, Dylan.
Aye, aye. Alrighty. All right, and we can see it, correct?
I can't.
All I see is Dylan Lambert has started screen sharing. There we
There
go.
we go.
Yeah.
That's a little scratch-built critter out of brass.
Yeah.
The bird on top is made out of 50-50 solder for the body, and shim brass for the wings and the tail, and brass wire for the legs. And it's not ON30, but it has a look of ON30
Mm-hmm.
with a trolley pole on it, you may notice.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that I love to build. I may have too much time on my hands, but those kind of models with Northwest Shortline motor in them, and it's got two Northwest Shortline motors in it. So it's amazing how many cars that thing can pull around my trolley layout.
Wow. Two
That
motors.
is nice.
That's pretty impressive.
I noticed a
normally-
lot. Go ahead.
I normally have it pulled. I've got a brass track cleaning car, and then I made a little four-wheel caboose out of brass. So that's normally the train that it pulls around the trolley layout.
Are most of you working in ON3 or something like that?
O scale,
O scale, but standard gauge?
standard gauge.
Okay.
This is another one of my scratch-built models. It's out of brass. I've wanted to build this for years and years and years, and finally we moved to Florida, and I had some time on my hands, so I got the plans out. And the reason I liked it was the little crane on the back of it. I'd never seen one like that before, so I thought that would make a pretty good, different kind of car. And so I built that one. It's got a Northwest Shortline, but only one motor in that one.
Motorized.
Here is my other too much time on my hands. This is my
Nice.
1937 scratch built in brass Woody wagon.
Wow.
And I saw the picture of it and I thought, oh, geez, I got to build that. I got to try to see if I can build that. And so I said, well, yeah, give it a shot. And that's how it came out.
Very
Nice.
nice.
Yeah.
But, you know, I like the different kind of things. You know, I guess partly because I'm a trolley modeler, all of my stuff is kind of different. But this is the kind of stuff that I enjoy building. And it's a challenge for me because every one of the models is different and presented some kind of a different way for me to try to figure out how to build it. And that's what I really enjoy about scratch building. It's not just so much the building of it, but it's figuring out how to build it and what'll work and what won't work and so forth.
Yeah, that's one thing I like about your work is that it is very unique. I know from seeing pictures of it in the past, that's what you're working on is not something where you can go, oh, that's a Bar Mills kit, or that's this kit, or that's that kit, because it's you did it. That's, that's really what it's all about. And for some people, they're happy building Bar Mills and doing it just like the box, and, good on you. If you get it you get it finished and you're happy with it, then that's what's important.
Oh, exactly. But, I tell you, it's the reason that I like to try to do things like the train show that we're doing and like this show. I'd like for people to see the kind of different stuff that's out there and what people are doing. Normally a model like this wouldn't be shown in a model railroad setting. This would be more of a model car kind of show or something like that. And to me, it's all part of the model railroad. It's the time that I model, and it's something that, scale at least, you're not going to buy off the shelf one of these things. You either build it or you don't have it. So that's the kind of thing that I'm interested in trying to do. The funny part about this is the tires are card stock, is layered card stock, because I can't find tires of the period that I can buy. So I make the tires out of card stock. The headlights are wood dowel that I've shaped, and the rest of it is brass.
I remember seeing when you were building this because you sent me some pictures. I think
Why don't you
showed them on a show at one point.
Why don't you show them again if you've got them? You still got them, right?
They're on my other computer. That's the problem.
Oh, okay.
That said, when you could, I like how this is coming out. I really do. You know why? Because it's different. Think about it. You said it yourself. We wouldn't normally talk about cars in a model railroad setting, but cars make part of a scene. Cars are a way, you can look at a building, and buildings really don't change that much. Cars do. Cars help you set an era.
Yeah, it's sort of a timestamp.
Exactly. Sure, in the 1970s, you might see an old Woody station wagon going around, but what are the odds of it? You're going to see the occasional Chevelle, the Bel Air, the Ford. You're going to see the newer stuff, and that's going to set your upper limit. Then you might, you're not going to see a Model T by the 1970s in anything but a museum, because even then they were museum pieces. But then, looking at some of this other stuff Jim built, like, let me go back one real quick. Like, I've seen maintenance cars like this, and I've only ever seen them with streetcar lines or interurbans. And I never quite understood why they did it until I realized, oh, wait, that's just perfect for freight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it's just, and I look at what Jim has built for his trolleys, and it's like, my God, I couldn't hope, I could design something like that. I could never hope to build it from scratch like that. Because my biggest thing is I can't scratch build to save my life, but I can make something on the computer, print it, figure out where the problems are, and then correct the problems. So I play to my strengths. Jim is in a whole nother world, and it makes me jealous because I'm like, crap, I could never hope to do that. Believe me, I've tried scratch building. It didn't end well at all. Like it was bad. It was very bad. I think I still have melted plastic on my desk.
You're not supposed to light it on fire. Come on, man.
Oh, it wasn't lighting it on fire. It was a plastic weld. I tried doing that, and I don't know what I did, because I just had a glob of plastic come off the damn thing. And I don't know what happened, but I'm pretty sure that's still stuck on my desk somewhere. Or one of the desks. I can't remember if it was the desk I had in the office back there or if it's the desk downstairs. I just remember there was a glob of plastic involved, and I got it on my hands, and I'm like, get off. It actually left me with a dried out like part of my thumb, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. But yeah, I look at what Jim does with his trolleys, and it's fantastic. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than it's amazing. And then he built a trolley, and I recognized the damn thing because I've seen the preserved one up in Maine. I'm like, I know I've seen you somewhere. That was back when he was showing pictures of the layout, a couple months ago. And I've looked at that picture since then. I'm like, I still can't place where and which one you are, but I know I've seen you somewhere. And it looks just like the real deal.
That's what it's all about, Dylan. That's what it's all about.
Oh, I know. And don't get me wrong, I like the whimsical modeling more than probably the prototypical stuff because I'm not much of a rivet counter. And I look at it and I go, well, something similar has probably existed. You know, the world, you know, where we think of ON30 as a compromise scale or a scale where people have fun, well, the human mind is a very interesting thing. I mean, think about it. How many things have people probably come up with? And then somebody else came up with the same thing again later. The same thing applies to railroads. The same thing applies to boats. The same thing applies to tanks. It applies to all of it. And the ideas, you can see the common ideas, and then you go back and you do your research, and it's like, oh, it was separate development. Somebody else had the same idea. And then you get into the really silly ideas, like sticking 2 guns in a turret, and you can't help but look at them and go, what? Why? Who are you trying to piss off with that? I think Marmon Harrington, I remember seeing something about Marmon Harrington. They put 2 guns in 1 turret. I'm like, no, I don't get it. But then again, I have a broad interest in history. You know, that's me.
Dylan, I just sent you another picture. See if you can get it on the email. And
all right, I'll pull it up.
Dylan, didn't one of the ironclads have 2 cannons in the turret?
The Monitor had 2 cannons.
Yeah, well, on
what I
a
thought.
battleship, it's one thing, or a ship, because you've got room. You know what I mean? You've got the space. In a tank, that you're expected to fit 3 people in a turret. Little bit difficult. Because the gun, you know, the biggest thing, like, and you run into this with the experimental stuff that we did when we were developing, say, the tank destroyer program. Like the first tank destroyers, quote unquote, be things they used to kill the tanks. The very first one was a Jeep that they welded a cannon to. But that's because they didn't know what else to do. They just saw the Germans rushing across France and like, we kind of have to do something about that just in case. But let me pull up Jim's other picture and put it on the screen share. Alrighty, screen share is going up. I know I can see it, but I don't know if you guys can see it.
Oh yeah, it's here.
Yeah, I can.
because I write the articles for the S-scale publication too, this one is an S-scale, not O-scale.
Yay.
And I saw a model of a diorama that a person had done with a racing car like that in front of the shop area. And I thought, geez, that looks great. So a friend of mine, Paul Eager, designed the garage part. It's a paper model. And I had built that and put the sign on it and so forth. But I couldn't get over the race car. I thought, geez, that really looks great. So I scratched the race car. It's also in a cardstock, and put it in the front of the building. So that is my S-scale model right now that I just finished a few days ago.
Excellent.
Yeah, that came out very nice.
Yeah.
I like that brickwork.
Oh, he does some great stuff. I tell you, every article I write that I do buildings for, I ask him to design me a building. And he designs the buildings, and I can print them off and put them together. I mean, I really think that cardstock is the modeling medium for a lot of us in the future. It's so cheap, doesn't require hardly any tools at all. When Chris was on last time talking about some of his modeling, models only required an X-Acto knife, some glue, and I forget the other tool or so, Chris. But it was nothing compared to some of the kind of tools that model railroading requires you to have or friends to loan to you or something to build some of these models. But in cardstock, it literally is an X-Acto knife, and I use white glue, and you can build just about anything out of it.
Jim,
Are
I
you
got a question. Does
Rick
the sorry,
Go ahead.
I was going to ask. You use white glue, don't you find that it bleeds through and discolors the front?
No, not at all. That's what you see is what you got. Now I brace it significantly on the inside. I mean, I use. I think I've said before on the shows that I go to the cigar shop and they save all of the cigar pieces for me out of the cigar boxes when they sell their cigars. And I probably have got 3 pounds of wood bracing on the inside of each one of the cardstock buildings because I just brace the heck out of them. But I haven't had any problems with the white glue bleeding through. Now it's when I say it's a paper model, it's on 120 weight paper, so it's a card kind of paper. It's not
Cardstock, yeah.
Yeah, it's not bond paper. That's why when I write about them, I refer to it like the English do it, of building card models, not paper models.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask if in a structure like this one you've got up right now, are you using the printed paper sides
Yep.
to get your texture?
All I do is when Paul sends me the link, because he sends it to me in HO. In my printer at home, I haven't been able to figure out how to convert it from HO to S to O. So I take it over to the printing company and they print out the sheets in whatever conversion Paul tells me to get them to print it to. And then I just use those.
Okay. Now, personally, I'm more of a kit basher than anything else. I love to kit bash structures. Sometimes it's to fit a space, and sometimes it's just to get something that will be what I want. I'm not doing an exact model, but it just gives me the feeling I want.
See, I think that's as close to scratch building as you can possibly get without saying that you're doing it by scratch. I've always thought that the kit bashing is the equivalent of scratch building because it takes so much creativity to figure out the pieces that you need, where to put them, how to put them, what goes where, and so forth, because you're not dealing with a set of instructions. And to me, if you're not dealing with a written set of instructions that have been model tested, build tested, and so forth, you're really coming up creativity out of your own mind first about how it should be built. And based on your experience and your past building efforts, how you know that you can put this together to make it come out to what you want.
No, one of my first experiments with kit bashing was while I was in the military, and the only plastic kits, and plastic's the material I was working with at my age, were Atlas kits. That was the only thing we had. I was on a small base, and that's the only thing they got in. So I kit bashed the Atlas lumber yard to make it bigger.
Yeah.
I kit bashed the Atlas station. I made it bigger. And the guys around me, you can't do that to a kit. But they were all involved in automobiles. So I took gotta think of it. American Motors. Javelin they were racing at the time. And I did it up, and I did it as a rally car, and I put in roll bars and fire extinguishers and 5-point harnesses, and the guys are just looking at me like I'm crazy, And I did it in the Foot Locker. One I've got right now, I was building for Rails on Wheels before they had everything stolen, when the whole layout was stolen.
Huh?
And I started out with, I think it was Keebury Station. Well, the first thing I did was leave off all the British detail or all the German details, and
Americanized it.
and the only thing that's still British is the roof. But a lot of American stations had tile roofs.
Mhm.
And so I said, well, heck, I'm not going to try scratch building a roof for it. But I want to add more. I want to put in a newspaper stand. I want to put in American signage, men's room, women's rooms, all the stuff that you'd find around the station. And that, when the club layout got stolen, I just kind of tucked that away. It was too big for anything I had. But with Fremo, I'm looking at possibly putting that up as part of Fremo. And I can, use some of the store buildings, et cetera, that I've built up over the years, finish those up and put it into a Fremo, and it kind of give you a town feel. I don't know, what do you people think of doing that?
I think it sounds fantastic. I think you could really come up with something that would be unusual and different.
The pictures, I've never been to a Fremo meet. Marshall can tell you that. But, I'm in my senior years and I'm starting to have problems with driving, etc. And I was just thinking, okay, if I can build a couple of Fremo models, that would be like the Rails on Wheels. I can go to the meets a couple times a year and take part without having to figure on a round trip drive. When they had the NMRA convention in Detroit, I live in Tecumseh, by the way.
Right.
I was making a round trip to Detroit every day for the Rails on Wheels display there. It was just, I enjoy the shows, the trade show or the swap meets and that type of thing. And I don't have anything that I absolutely have to buy. I'm going in there and looking for something unusual and somebody to talk to, because Marshall's the only other person I know of in town that's a model railroad. Is that right, Marshall?
Yeah, it's pretty sparse out here.
But I've been in HO since 1954. And for some reason, people are calling me an old timer on this.
Oh, no.
Wonder why.
If you think you have a hard time finding model railroaders, try to find somebody in trolleys.
Mhm.
Somebody what?
Oh, yeah. Doing
Trolley.
Sorry, I didn't catch it. My hearing's going too.
Try to find somebody that models trolleys.
Trolleys?
Yeah.
I've got a friend that's a trolley modeler. He had his layout model railroader. He was a high school buddy. Tom
Well,
Bailey.
It was in the Detroit
Ask him.
area, actually.
You ought to ask him to join one of our meetings. I'd love to meet him. There's not many
Well,
of us around.
No, Tom's down in, I think, Houston area.
Well, that's all right.
No, Tom's in the Dallas area.
He can join from there.
But I'm sure he belongs to everything. No, his layout a couple years back was in one of the Model Railroad magazines.
All right.
And his interurban, and then he had a loop of New York Central steam.
Oh.
But no, and it's funny. There were very few of us in high school that were model railroaders. Everybody else was into cars back in the 50s. And I had my 53 Ford 6-cylinder. But no, it was, you know, a couple of my classmates built true hot rods, you know. Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
they chopped them and, you know, open wheels, took the fenders off, you know, the whole worst. But you talk about kit bashing.
Now the kids today build bumblebees.
Douglas, you know, it's funny that you talk about kit bashing and model cars. Back in the early 60s was when I was building my model cars, and I think one of the first kit bashes I ever did, a friend of mine gave me the body from a 1932 5-window coupe. And it was just so cool. And I said, what can I make from this? And this was when everybody was running rails and funny cars really hadn't come in yet or anything. So I built a chassis for it, put a motor in it, put all the accoutrements that go on it, the blower, the parachute, the slicks, everything. And that was my first kit bash. And I think I did about 10 more cars where I changed something extensively. And it never occurred to me when I was building model railroad structures decades later that I could do the same thing. It was almost like a whole learning process had to be reactivated.
No, I took I used to own a hobby shop up in northern Michigan. And I took a Helgen factory, and out of the 3-dimensional walls, I made a background model, and it was big enough to have boxcars at it. That I had it on an automatic reversal at one of the Ann Arbor Club shows one time, and a guy came to me and he says, "Now that's the kind of modeling I want to do." And that made me feel good.
Oh, yeah.
That, anyhow, you know, it's model railroading has been a good hobby for me because it has so much variety, and I get bored frequently. And in model railroading, there's no reason to get bored. There's too many aspects. You know, right now I'm trying to learn DCC.
Big learning curve.
Huh?
Big learning curve there.
Yeah, well, I thought I knew electronics at one time. I came out of the service doing fixed cryptographic maintenance.
Ooh.
And in the day, that was pretty high end. I had clearances that the President of the United States can't get. But no, you know, I wasn't, when I was stationed in Germany, I wasn't allowed within 10 kilometers of the border.
Oh.
Not allowed to take the troop train into Berlin even. So, you know, it kind of limited my tourism in Germany.
Ooh.
Then I got shipped down to Italy. Well, everything was okay in Italy. You can go any place you want. Just don't date any of the Italian girls because half their families are registered communists. That was frowned on. I was stationed right near Pisa.
San Vito? Oh, okay.
Between Pisa and Leghorn or Livorno, depending on whose language you're using. But my big mistake there was I didn't bring home any Galliano. That was made right there. But that was the Chianti region of Italy. Boy, I'll tell you, Chianti drunk is a rough one. But, no, I just wondered how you guys involved in Fremo would feel about a big station, maybe a little park on it, in front of it.
No, that's not a problem.
And
Not a problem at all. There's some people are promoting doing more as far as passenger trains because we've had very little right now.
Oh, great. I just completed buying all the cars I need to do an El Capitan.
Hey,
I was wondering where I was going to run it. Because
Did a
everybody
couple.
wants to run DT&I and everything around here.
Yeah, and I just bought a whole new New York Central E-units and, you know, the whole Silver Line, Bud cars and everything. So I'm looking forward to running as well.
No,
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
bought
that's
everything I need to do a 40s, early 50s El Capitan. 'Cause everybody else is doing Super Chief, so I figure I'm going to do an El Capitan.
There you go.
And I'm also working on getting proper cars for a fast mail,
Well, that'd be good too. Yeah.
which is usually powered by PAs, but you got essentially a mixture of express cars behind it. Penske cars, B&O, would be put into the train on the fast mail. Would get into it at Chicago. And you could even pick up some Mopac in at Argentine Yard. So that would be a train running on a passenger schedule, essentially.
There's a Fremo guy down in Texas, I think,
Oh.
who is building a set of modules that are going to make up the Dallas Union Terminal.
Ooh,
Humongous.
that's a big job.
And
Well, you can follow along with it too.
right, and it'll take several trains that are what, 30 cars long, Marshall, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. He's doing it almost full size.
Yeah.
And speaking of full size, the picture behind me and the shot here, and let me get out of the way.
I can see it.
That is a Fremo module,
A what?
or a module set. That
Yeah,
is the
that's-
Nicholson Viaduct in Pennsylvania. The model comes apart in pieces, fits in the smallest U-Haul trailer you can get, plus two pieces in the back of Andy Mariusko's pickup truck. Andy is in Rockford, Illinois. This is 25 feet, 3 inches long, to scale.
I couldn't even
The,
get that in my car.
And the track level on Fremo is 50 inches from the floor, so that's what this is. It's dual track, so it mates up with any other Fremo module that's dual track. And so I am building my first two Fremo modules as we speak. I've been interested in it for a number of years. Bill Gothrop, who a lot of you probably know, got me into it. He came to our Michiana division NMRA annual conferences several times and helped set up Fremo layouts, and Marshall Stoll got involved later on and got me even more interested. Finally sold the N-scale layout that my son and I started in 1981, and that made room for doing some Fremo, which is nice to have when you're going to downsize as we all get older. And very interesting.
Well,
I
I
normally have
got
another meeting on Wednesday nights on Zoom, and Marshall told me about this, so I decided to jump in. Thank you, Marshall. And so let me give you a couple other comments here. Heard some about trolleys earlier. Wayne Hamelman, whom some of you in trolleys might be aware of, late Wayne Hamelman. I worked with him in Milwaukee years ago. Exquisite layouts in trolley activity. And most of what he built survives in, I can't remember the name of the museum right now, in Cudahy, Wisconsin, which is mostly Chicago North Shore and Milwaukee interurban stuff, but they also have trolley models there in various scales. So Jim might be interested in that. I grew up in Milwaukee, rode the North Shore, and pieces of the Milwaukee Electric were still running freight to the power plants and stuff like that in those days. Cardstock was mentioned. John Cosma has Gypsy Trolley Lines, which is a set of modules that kind of take after Milwaukee in 1939.
Jeez.
The modules are 7 3/4 inches deep, most of them, all cardstock modules. And if you stand facing the layout, you swear it's not 36 inches deep. It's exquisite detail in cardstock. And I've probably got a few hundred pictures of that I could share on here someday. Let's see.
Is he still around?
John Cosma?
Yeah.
Yes, he is. And in fact, the viaduct you see in the back here is last fall at Train Fest in Milwaukee, which was, I think, the 4th place that Andy set this viaduct up. The first place was 2018 at the National. And then that fall, he had it at our conference in South Bend, Indiana. And Marshall was there too. And so this is Train Fest in Milwaukee, which is not being held this year. It's always on the second full weekend of November if it's not COVID. And 60 to 65 layouts, 60 manufacturers, 18,000 people. It is a fantastic show if you've not been to it. Wow. And maybe 15 of the layouts are trolley layouts.
Yeah.
For Jim's interest there.
Do you have his email by any chance, or a way to contact him?
Sure.
Could you send it to me? Dylan can give you the chat. He can tell you what my email address is.
Okay, I will watch for that in chat and write that down and send you an email, and maybe share a few pictures with you too.
Fantastic. I'd love to do that. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, Train Fest I've heard of a long time. I was amazed that they not only canceled all of their this year's shows, but also every show for next year.
Train Fest is on for next year.
The latest I was told is they canceled all of 2021.
I'll double check when the next person's talking here and let you know. A couple other comments. Shane Lambert of Center Tracks, that's CENTERTRAK.
Right.
This setup behind me in the picture, that was their Fremo setup at Train Fest. And he's got a website, the centertrack.org. And Jim, I think, mentioned he was getting into S now. Shane is building,
He's doing an S-scale layout now.
He's doing an S-scale layout using Fremo modular kit bases from Masterpiece Modules, which is what I'm using for mine because they're very thin and light. And I can show you the construction some other time. I won't bother tonight. But so Center Track, without a C, and track.org, you can see some of that stuff. So with that, I'll shut up and let the next person go.
You know, I'm hearing more and more about people that are either because they're downsizing in housing or age or whatever, but more and more people now are building dioramas and building modules rather than thinking about whole layouts.
Well, there are micro layouts and there are small layouts. They actually operate. I mean, part of that group.
It's a matter of space for a lot of people.
Right. I'll give you one
The
example.
magazines push these big basement monsters. I got a crawl space. I'm lucky to have a bedroom that's potentially available.
Yeah, one of the neat things about being able to do dioramas or even smaller layouts or a switching layout type situation is that you can go into something different. Like everybody on here knows I'm a Rutland guy, but I'd like to do a wharf scene. I've actually got one that I've put on a sheet of pink insulation behind me that I'm looking to convert into a wharf scene. But going with smaller stuff allows me to do that. And I think that's another thing people are seeing is that with smaller stuff, you can do more, you can do a bunch of different things, and you're not committed to this big monstrosity.
Have you seen this month's model railroader with the Civil War?
Oh, yeah.
Is that the one that just came out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got about 2 pages into it earlier.
Yeah, I haven't gotten it yet.
I think that guy had a lot of computer printed parts on it. I don't think there's that many.
Well, I model Civil War, and I do it on a small layout. It's
Yeah.
2 foot by 8 foot.
Mm.
I think you guys have hit just about everything that I've done on that layout, because you were talking about paper buildings, and this is a paper building.
Mhm.
It's modeled after one off of Cairo, Illinois, 1862.
That's really nice.
Good.
Did you design that?
Yes, actually, I got a really good photo from the Civil War of this building. And if I could find it now, I'd share it. I was trying to. And so I was able to actually take it into Photoshop, replicate it. This is the actual front of the building, you know, out of Photoshop. And then I used Tichy windows to fill it in and doors.
Yeah.
And that's the actual text off the building. And then matched up all the windows and doors, what was actually there.
Yeah, I think the 2D stuff really makes it stand out, and kind of separates it from some of the cardstock stuff where it just looks kind of cardstock, but that does not. That
Well,
that
one of
came
the-
out very nice.
Yeah, one of the tricks I did, and I don't know if you can see it, is it looks like it has siding on it.
Yes.
All I did was scribe it.
Mm.
And so
Cool.
just that little bit of shadow, you know, and there was also, from the image itself, there was some lines where you could see them, and I described right along those lines.
Yep.
Yeah, and so, yeah, made it a nice foreground model, even though, you know, it is paper. And I mean, so the backside, I didn't bother because
Because nobody's
who
going
will
to see it.
anyway. But you
Yep.
see how thin, you know, some of these walls are. And yeah, I've got, I've actually laid out the different rooms and things inside of it. And I plan on putting in some lights so that it will look like it. But, you
Well,
know,
remember in Civil War, they got to be,
very dim.
no, but I mean, they've got to be lanterns. Yeah, you can't have an electric light.
Oh, no. Just lanterns. Just lanterns.
Something if you're interested in old structures. I don't know if you belong to a site, it's Michigan History.
Yes.
They get a lot of neat old buildings on there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Something else that I did recently, if you want to see. This is from a kit.
I saw a picture of that.
Yeah, you did. This is the live one. So what I did is I'm modeling Detroit, 1976, 77. And, you know, it wasn't
Western
such
bungalow.
a great town, so I need some blight houses. And this bungalow from Walters was typical. And I just
Western
took
bungalow.
and, you know, put it together, boarded up the windows. Don't know if you can see it, but I did
Yeah.
some glass and shades and things in there. The door, made the
But
door
it's
open.
also broke the porch railings and,
Yeah, I got to break the porch railings and stuff.
no, you did.
You know, on the back, you know, you got to make the hole so the meter, you know, the meter's been pulled. You know, graffiti and different things, what have you. So, those are my projects.
Nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing. All right, who's next?
Come on, there's people haven't talked.
Well, this is my first evening here. My name is Jim. I'm in Sagamore Hills in Ohio, not too far from Cleveland. We brought you the Cleveland National NMRA, and that was fun. We actually 3 divisions, Division 1, 4, and 5 got together. We put that show on. So I'm down in the more sparsely populated area. We cover 12 counties, and we get 12 members come to our divisional meeting.
I can see that.
Actually, we get about 30, but with the COVID, it dropped. And we'll see what happens this upcoming thing. All right, I'm an HO modeler. I don't know if that bothers any of you guys because I heard a lot of O, N, and S.
I mean, Joe, we got to stick together.
We're okay. It's an eclectic group then. All right, and I love to operate. I love to operate, and don't get dizzy. Since everybody's showing something, I'll show you. I'm not going to show you my whole layout because it'd be too much and make everybody dizzy. I did a Zoom before. All right, see, I need to switch this around. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to figure that out. So let's do it this way. All right, here's what I'm working on. It's a drive-in scene.
I love it.
Nice.
Okay.
Is that
It's gotta be
you have like an
50s
iPad or
plus.
something in there?
That is my wife's discarded. Well, it holds my wife's discarded Kindle, which is recharging. Otherwise I could just put it on and it'll run through a whole session. I operate. I have 7 guys. There's your cars, but they're not scratch built, but you can see the era.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, I scratch built the speaker posts. I don't know if you can see those.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and as this scene is not done, and I love my terrain. You can see the trees, they're background trees. And let's see if I could pick up I'm doing this over my shoulder. Can you see the swing set for the kids?
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't know what to put next to it. And I thought, when I was a kid and I went to the drive-in, what did I see? And I remember I saw nothing. It was all green space. You remember those days? Anyway,
Yes.
so I decided to put, if I turn this, there I am. And again, I apologize there. So I put a little pasture there and some cows. So there's Farmer Ball's cows. And I just finished, I kit bashed. You guys talk about kit bashing. I just tore apart the building just so I could make the ticket booth.
I love it. I love it.
Nice.
Yeah, and then the signs, that was easy. I just painted over and pulled off the stickies. Okay, now that's one little area. This is a loop. I got a large layout, and I think it's enough if I share this here. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah,
It's called the
great.
Ellis and
Yeah.
MJ.
Thank you.
Is anybody else missing Greg's automobiles? All the variety of those old cars? I do. I wish they were still in production.
Yeah, you look at cars now, and it's just they all look the same.
But
We
We have to do our own changes. You have to modify. I build a scene and then I come back to it and work on the details. And I make it fit what I want it, whether I'm capturing the flavor of an era or of a place, or I'm just having fun with a friend. I could show you one where I built his truck by Dylan. I think you're the computer guy, didn't you say? Where's that truck? Oh, I got to figure out how to use this iPad. See the truck there?
Yep.
You were talking about wine. It's Williams Fine Wines. I just printed that off the, off my computer and made that.
You
So,
just
yeah, we gotta
kicked
do
old
what we gotta
memories
do.
for me. When I first got into model railroading, there's a fellow at the Ann Arbor Model Railroad Club, Jim Williams. And this was long before I could drive. He would come from Ypsilanti to Ann Arbor to pick me up to go to the club and then bring me home. And he was head of the conventions for years for the NMRA. The overall head, not a convention, but the overall conventions.
He was a very close friend of mine.
You knew Jim?
Oh, yeah. Long time ago.
Yeah,
in fact,
he died, what, 20
oh,
years
gosh,
ago?
25 years ago, something like
Yeah,
that.
Oh,
something
my.
like that, yeah.
And I'm the one that got him his MMR. I was the achievement program.
A couple of guys when I was a 16, 15-year-old in Ann Arbor. I don't know if I'd stayed with the hobby, but I got constant backing from them. You know, they encouraged me.
Yep.
Like Jim, I'd done some weathering on a car, on a boxcar, and this was before everybody was doing weathering. And he complimented me that on the end of the car, I put the splash up from the other cars in the train. And he said, I've never seen anybody do that before. You know, this was just what I saw, you know. But no, Jim and another guy named Dick Wheaton were just great. They were just great guys.
Let me go back to the gentleman that was talking about the National Convention in Ohio.
Yes, Jim.
Yeah. We're trying to hold this first Zoom train show. And boy, any help that you could give us, advice, counsel, we sure would appreciate it, because I've never done a train show before. Dylan's never done one. And we think it's going to go off well. I'm convinced it will. But we sure could use any help and advice and so forth, because like I say, it's the first one that I know about that's going to be held anywhere, or anybody's trying to hold it. We've got 18 slots filled with manufacturers, and they're all small manufacturers. These are people, many of them you may never have heard of before, all different scales. Some of them are scale specific, and then others provide product in all different scales, N to O scale or G scale even. So I think it's going to be, you know, awfully good. And I think it opens a door for these smaller mom and pop kind of manufacturers to have an entree to the modeling community around the world that they haven't had access to before, because they don't normally get invited to a national NMRA or to a major train show in the region and that kind of thing. They can't afford to pay the price to go. So they're not really represented at those kind of shows. So, and they're not advertisers in the magazines or the press, model press. So, you know, how do they get their word out? Well, as far as I'm concerned, Zoom could be their avenue of doing that. And if we can pull this off and get it successful, then I'd like to see us do this every 2 months, have a different train show on Zoom, and give these kind of smaller manufacturers and mom and pop kind of operations, or the people with products that they'd like to bring to the modeling community, but you know, are concerned about how we market it and how we get this done, give them that kind of an entree. So with your background and experience, any help that you can provide is be more than welcome. And like I said, Dylan can give you my email address, and please let me know, because you know, we need all the help we can get right now in trying to make this as successful for everybody as we possibly can.
Okay, I'll share what I can.
That's
Be
great.
happy to, Jim.
And that goes for anybody else on here tonight.
Is there any way to put a little clip on the Model Railroad Facebook sites? Some of them I know won't allow it, but maybe, okay, we're going to have a train show, you know, at a such and such a location, date and time, you know.
It's on 150 sites that I personally posted it on. And Marshall now, since he's become a member of our team to try to do this kind of stuff and help us with the Zoom meetings that we're doing right now, he's come up with some ideas, and we're going to pursue those. So we're doing everything that we can possibly think of to try to get the word out that we're doing this. But so far, and again, Marshall pointed this out tonight. It's been, my efforts have been restricted to Facebook, because I don't know all of these other social media sites. That's the only one that I know about. So that's what I restricted the promotions to. But with his help, hopefully we can broaden that out some. And that's why we're planning to do the live stream for our Zoom shows like this as soon as Dylan can, work out the details on the technical side of it, to try to open this up to more people and get more modelers involved with our programs. But we can use all the help we can get by word of mouth or other people posting the stuff that we're putting out and so forth. We really would appreciate the help.
I think now is a perfect time for it with the COVID. Our organization right now isn't doing much because we're continuing to try to do the in person, but people aren't showing up. So in order to keep the organization strong, I think this is a great idea. Have you tuned in onto the NMRA X? Are you still an NMRA member?
Yeah, I'm a life member, so I don't have to pay the dues. I'm here.
That makes two of us.
Did you
Life since
you tune
67.
into the NMRA X?
Yes, I've seen
Okay,
some of
so
them.
I'm sure that they have a lot of advice too.
Well, it's interesting. I see where I just saw the NMRA now is going to require everybody to, I forget how they work, turn over the rights. If they do a presentation, then NMRA owns their presentation. And I'm assuming that means that they won't be able to come on shows like this and, talk about what the same kind of stuff is and so forth. I don't know what that's all about.
I don't know the legalities now.
I think that has to do with the rights. They have to request that in order to be able to put it on their website and rebroadcast it.
So
yeah, they can't stop you from doing your own program.
Yeah, but I don't want to really be in competition with the NMRA. I think that they serve slightly different audience than what I'm trying to get to come on these shows. My real interest is in model builders. That's what I think the hobby desperately needs now, is more people building models, because the older people, and I'll include myself, once we're gone, whatever we know how to build, that's going to be gone too.
Yeah, it's true.
So if I can't find a way to share that knowledge or to share the enthusiasm that I have, the confidence that I have to be able to see a photo and be able to scale it to whatever scale I'm working in, and then be able to scratch build it, if I can't pass that kind of enthusiasm on, then that kind of model building may go when I die. And that's what I'm concerned about, because a lot of the people coming into the hobby are not model builders. At least they're not interested in the same kind of model building.
No, they want to build everything. They want to buy it commercial and set it on the layout.
And that, I think, is going to be to the detriment of the hobby. I know it's great for some manufacturers, and God love them for producing the product and getting more people in the hobby. That's great. My thrust is in Zoom meetings. That's why I started these. The train show for the smaller manufacturers. That's why I thought that was a way of trying to get more people knowledgeable about the building opportunities that are out there. And the reason I write the articles that I do for the online magazines is all based on that premise. More modelers building models in the hobby. To introduce the manufacturers, not the Bachmans, not the line, not those people. They can do it, and they do it themselves very well. But the smaller manufacturer who doesn't have that kind of budget and doesn't have that kind of entree to the wide audience, that's the person that I'd like to try to promote and try to get more people involved with.
This was back in the day, back in the late 50s, early 60s. These were called garage manufacturers.
Yes.
They didn't have big setups. They had the husband, the wife, and maybe throw a couple kids in to do all the work.
That's right. And
But
if they
the thing that's bothering me more is kids not getting into the hobby at all.
well, and I
In
think
model building anymore. I used to own a hobby shop, and I know that, you know, they're not building cars, airplanes, anything else anymore.
exactly. It's funny though, because the other hobbies that now I'm starting to investigate, simply because one of the things that I believe is that if you can build models in model railroading, you can build models in any other hobby that you want to get involved in, because you're going to take that skill that you've developed in model railroading and transfer it. And I believe our skills are that transferable between hobbies. I also believe that the other hobbies have an awful lot of skills that I'm not aware of in model railroading that I can hopefully learn in that hobby and bring into what I'm doing in model railroading.
As an owner of a hobby shop, 25 years ago now, I used to read all the magazines. I read the automotive modelers. I read the airplane modelers. You know, I read all those magazines because they did things we didn't have. I hadn't, till I started reading the airplane magazines, I'd never heard of canopy glue. And it's great for putting windows in. You know, and I ruined so many buildings by having the insides fog up from using plastic cement in a window. You know.
No, but that's how you learn.
It is.
You know, I didn't know about canopy glue, and I was trying to get them to stay in with white glue, and that doesn't work either. But, you know, all the hobbies interchange. I mean, there's a broad base of them that is all interchanged.
And I think, you know, Chris is a manufacturer, and Chris can tell you, he can sell in his kits to other hobbies. I mean, while he is a model railroad manufacturer, he can sell to war gamers. He can sell to military modelers. There's different people in different hobbies out there that can buy Chris's kits and put them on their dioramas, and it's they don't have trains. They're not model railroaders, but they are modelers, and that's the group that I'm trying to focus on. And again, I think our primary market is people that either are great model builders and want to share their knowledge, or people that would like to improve their skills and gain knowledge that they may not have right now. And that's
people that want to do something with their hands.
Yes, sir. That's it. That's the group that I'm trying to attract. And I agree with you about young people not coming in the hobby. That is a perfect role for the NMRA. And that, you know, I can't solve the world's problems, so I'm concentrating on my little niche that I'm trying to target.
But every one of us have to be involved. Now, I happen not to have any children, but I've gone after my nephews and even my nieces, and I can't get any of them interested. I took a young kid to one of the shows, the Ann Arbor show last fall, or last spring. And he said, I never knew model trains could be like this. He says, I thought they ran in a circle.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've got to get these young kids to see it, that it's something they can do. Yes, it can be easier for them to get started than it was for us. But by the same token, let's get them interested. You know, invite them in to look at your railroad and maybe run it a little bit. I'm in favor of, you know, where these display layouts are set up, have a bit where a teenager can run a train on that layout, you know. You know, somebody supervising him. And with DCC, this is just a matter of setting up what our maximum speeds are and everything, so they're not playing race a train. You know, we can set up the maximum speed for them and everything. And I think this would be an interesting way to go. Because a lot of times kids are getting dragged along by their father, and you look at them and they're bored. You get them to run a train and they're going to start getting excited maybe.
I mentioned Train Fest earlier. That's held at State Fair Park outside Milwaukee. And it's been running for 40 plus years now. I can't remember how long, and is so well known. It's promoted on TV weeks going up to the event. They buy ads on TV. They buy ads in the newspaper. Of course, they're in all the Model Railroad publications and whatnot too. But there are lots and lots of kids that come to that, all the way from babies on up. The modelers come from all over the world, the top modelers from Japan and whatnot. And Jim was mentioning the one-man companies. Of the 60 or so factories that were on display, I'd say half of them were the mom and pop kinds of things, like Iowa Scaled Engineering, which maybe appeared at Train Fest and maybe one other show all year.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was talking about scratch building. I think it was Niagara Frontier Division brings 25 or 30 master model railroaders or whatever they are to this thing every year, and they line them up in a circle, and you can go from table to table and learn about this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, nice.
And one of the most amazing models I saw was a guy had a switch tower, and you could lift off the floors. So you lift most of it off. He had a detailed basement with a furnace and everything. With the first floor on, there were the offices. There was a desk. He reaches in with the tweezers, pulls open a drawer of the desk, and pulls out a scale file folder. Talk about detail.
It's crazy.
On around the building, around the room, the next guy is how to scratch build a flat car, how to do this, that, and the other thing. So, but it takes a humongous show like that to do it, and it didn't get to that level of detail in the first few years, but it, by being so big and so well known, it's, really hung on there and pulls lots and lots of people.
What I wanted to do when I was with Rails on Wheels was just have a table set up where I'd build, or other members would build the basic cars like Athearn, Walthers, Accurail, and the people could walk by and see it being built and, go someplace and see it, the easy cars, and let them see how it's put together. And I couldn't talk Rails on Wheels into it.
Train Fest does that. They've got a kids area that's got Lego Railroad and on and on and on. And they have kits you can build. And I'm not even sure if they charge them for it. I think they just say, come sit down with us for an hour and build your own kit and take it with you. And
but I'm thinking like, an Accurail freight car. That's the easiest kits on the market now, are Accurails. If we could get, if I could get several of those, and just watch how it's put together. They're going to learn it's not complicated, and it will encourage them. That's when I had the hobby shop. I used to build kits in the store when it wasn't busy. And the kids would come in after school and see what I'd done during the day. And it got a lot of them to buying kits and building kits. And I think you've got to show them, because their dad's not gonna. And half of them don't have dads,
Yep.
That's just my opinion, but I would be delighted to sit at a table and with helping kids,
There's a company that sponsors a lot of train shows around the world, around the US at least. And they do the Great American Train Shows, all of those. And they do you know, they're all over the country. So I
Great.
called up the guy and I said, listen, I'll tell you what, I'll look for people to do it. If you'll provide us free entrance to your show, free parking at your show, give us a table, give us some chairs, give us a coffee pot, and give us an electrical plug, then we'll come and man that booth, and we'll build models. And we'll talk about model building to the audience and so forth at your train show. What do you think of that? And he said, I love the idea. He said, that's great. We can make that arrangement. You can come to all the shows that we sponsor anywhere in the US. So I thought, well, geez, that's not a bad deal. You know, that shouldn't be hard to do. And I approached some people and I couldn't get anybody, any association that I went to that I thought was capable of providing modelers to do that. And without being able to provide modelers on a basis where I could guarantee him that we'll fill that booth wherever you tell us to be at whatever day or whatever week it is, anywhere in the country, I didn't feel positive about going forward with it. And then the COVID thing hit, and I kind of dropped the idea. But I'm telling you, I believe that we could really have an impact on a lot of people all over this United States if we can find people to go to these shows all over the country, and they'll provide the space for us, and you get free entrance. Now think about this. You know, the local clubs, the local organizations, I mean, my gosh, it seems like they would be interested in doing stuff like this. The place, organizations like the O-Scale Kings, they're not able to do it, I don't think, at this point, but you know, that kind of an association ought to be able to jump all over this. The S-scale associations should be, the N-scale associations should be this. The various clubs around the country should want to be able to do this. But the problem is to make sure that if you tell this guy, yeah, we'll be there, you provide the space and so forth, and we'll come and do this, then we got to be there to do it. And I'm telling you, that's going to be the tough part of getting that put together.
Yeah, well, I can't afford to go those places and spend the motel room. You know, I'm living on Social Security. You know, I'm not.
But you could do one close to your home.
But one's nearby. Yeah, I'd be up for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it doesn't have to be people traveling to do this. I mean, we got model railroaders all over the country.
Yeah.
And these shows are all over the country. I mean, a lot of them are in the East and West Coast, because that's frankly where the bulk of the modelers are.
That's the bulk of the people in the U.S. is the two coasts.
So you know, it ought to be, if you've got associations, and there are a lot of associations out there, it would seem to me that that would be an easy way for an association to start gaining more people.
Oh.
And there's no question that the train shows, I believe, are going to be looking for things to do besides trying to get people to bring in the used Lionel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the big trains are taking a hit right now because MTH is gone. You know, they're closing out, you know. But that's something we don't have control of, you know.
So I really believe the Zoom train shows could be a way for the future. I'm convinced of that in my own mind. I may be wrong, but I'm convinced of it, because I don't think that people, given the option of being able to stay in their home and attend a Zoom train show versus traveling for 2 or 3 hours, paying a parking fee, buying lunch, maybe staying overnight in a motel to go to a train show, I think they're going to stay at home and watch Zoom.
Yeah, well, I've missed the train shows this year. Yeah, I miss their not being on. Yeah. You know, we managed to squeeze a couple in before everything shut down. I drove down to Van Wert one year. Yeah. Well, I think we were supposed to be an hour, if I remember right. We're at an hour 45 now.
Well, ours, and we normally go for an hour and a half to 2 hours on these. We don't
Okay.
have an hour limit or anything, whatever.
Oh, okay. I
Whenever-
didn't know what. I didn't.
When people are tired talking, we stop them. So, Chris, I don't know whether anybody has any more or not tonight.
Well, Chris did have to take off for the kids.
Okay. Then I guess I'll ask, does anybody have any more miles they'd like to talk about or things that they are thinking about doing or want to do?
Well, I'd just like to tell Neil, Andy there used to be a member of our club up in the Detroit area, and then lost track of him, and then saw his bridge there come to life on Facebook.
Okay.
So went to the train show, the Train Fest last year to see him, to surprise him. Unfortunately, we got the surprise he wasn't there.
Yeah, he set
Talk
up
to
on
him
Friday night
later.
and came back on Sunday.
Yeah, I talked to him later on Facebook, and we just missed him by an hour. So yeah.
He was a
That
member. He was a member of the DUR club.
No, he was member of the Roundhouse Model Railroad
Ah, okay.
Club.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, his
Well,
career
another-
was building exhibits for trade shows like the auto show. So he was up in
Ah.
Detroit for many years.
Yep. At the time that he was a member in the club, he was still going to school for carpentry. So he's done a fine job of learning the trade.
What he is building now is an octagon where 4 of the sides are 26 inches wide to be a Fremo connection. 4 of the interspersed sides are 16 inches wide that fan out to a Fremo connection. And tracks go from every place to every place.
Mm-hmm.
The track laying on that is going to be a rat's nest, and the wiring will be a rat's nest squared.
A while back, we were talking about the interurban, the electric.
Hmm.
Another guy that was in high school with me, he now is for the running big ones, is now doing repairs for them, repairing their signals, everything else in the Northern Illinois area.
Mm.
But,
Well, there's the East Troy Electric Railroad Museum. Kenosha has antique trolleys that run.
I guess he's
during
qualified
COVID.
to run some of the trolleys.
Yeah, Wayne Hamelman, who I mentioned, did that after he retired too. So,
Now, if you ever
anybody on
run
here
into-
like to watch live webcams of railroad activity? Anybody?
I
do
haven't
that?
run into many of them, but yeah, I'd watch them if I see them.
Okay, there's a group called the Virtual Rail Fan that has like 80 cameras, and they're on YouTube. So you just go to YouTube and search Virtual Rail Fan. 2/3 of theirs are open just for anybody that wants to see them. You need to be a member to see the rest. Today, they turned off 2 cameras that were at the National New York Central Railroad Museum in Elkhart and turned on a pan tilt zoom camera to the public from the Amtrak station across from the museum. And as I'm sitting here, I'm watching a Norfolk Southern train go through on the 3-track main line. And there are times you can see 3 trains moving at the same time on that webcam, 80 to 100 trains a day. And the station's on the north side of the track, so the camera now, the moving camera, can look west to the yards and the fuel pad, or east, and you see the main line heading down toward Goshen around the curve, or one track kind of bending off to the left. That goes up to the Elkhart and Western, and it's the Grand Elk Railroad. It used to be part of the Norfolk Southern, goes up to Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids. So just look for Elkhart Virtual Railfan on YouTube and enjoy.
I will.
And good pictures of the museum across the tracks too, with the E8 and the New York Central passenger cars and the Mohawk steam engine and so on and so forth.
Oh, geez. Well, listen, the next one of these that we're going to have is October the 14th. That's going to be the next time where we're going to dedicate the whole show to the My Bills section. So if you're working on anything and you want to come back and show it to us, that's the time to do it, October the 14th. Next time, Saturday, September the 5th, we've got a really interesting show for you. I had a person in Australia contact me 3 months ago and tell me that if I didn't understand how to completely computerize the operation of my model railroad, that I shouldn't be an MMR.
Oh.
That I just didn't really understand where the hobby was going, and that if I didn't know how to computerize, then I just really wasn't up to stuff. So I thought, well, I'll look into this and see what they're talking about. Well, here's what they're talking about. And the guy that's going to be here Saturday actually uses this system, and he can tell you in detail about it. But imagine, if you can, you walk into your train room, you press a button on your computer, and the first train to be scheduled starts up automatically. You sit down in your easy chair, open a beer, and you watch your model railroad come to life. The first train starts, the second train starts on a schedule, third train starts, the fourth train starts. One of the trains is a really heavy train, and it has to go up a hill. And the system automatically determines that the train is so heavy that it needs a helper engine in order to get up the hill. So at the bottom of the hill, that train automatically stops. Everything else keeps running. Railroad keeps going. Horns honk, everything working. You're still sitting in your easy chair. That train stops. Another engine at the roundhouse starts up, maneuvers, goes through switches, and finally ends up at the rear of that train, makes its horn. The lead engine replies, and the train starts up the hill. The speed of the train is determined based on the weight and the capabilities of the two engines. At the top of the hill, the train stops. The helper engine disconnects, goes back to the roundhouse, and the train keeps going on its scheduled route. That system is an off-the-shelf software that you can buy this afternoon, and that's what the person that's going to be here Saturday is going to talk about.
That's not my idea.
I found it just amazing that capability exists in the hobby today. I had never known about it, never heard about it before. So I thought that you might be interested in hearing about it, and I've invited this person to come and talk about it. I also found a museum in New Hampshire that uses this same system. They can walk in, one person operates their model railroad for viewers, presses a button, and 6 different trains operate on exactly the same schedule that the prototype operated in that county in 1909. Every whistle that the original prototype train blew, blows. At every grade crossing, it stops at every station that the original stopped at. All of the models are scratch built according to what was there in 1909. It's the first model railroad that I found in the US that has that kind of capability at a museum. And I've invited those people to come about a month from now, I think. So you'll get two views of what's out there right now and what people are doing to actually computerize the operation of their model railroad to a level that I never dreamed was possible. So I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you enjoyed tonight and learned something that can help you in your modeling.
A few years ago, we never dreamed we could do what we do with DCC either.
I know. And I think this computerization, if there's going to be a way to bring in the younger market, I think that may be the way.
Yeah.
Because, you know, this is, as somebody said earlier, it's one thing to be able to sit at a computer and design a model. There's something else to do to take that design and actually build that model.
Mhm.
That's the person, that's what I like to do. But the person that can sit at the computer and design the model and produce 3D parts or produce a kit that can be laser printed, I can't do that. But the youth of the country can do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where model railroading, I think, to a large extent, can really draw in the younger people as model railroading goes more in that direction. So thanks everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed tonight and look forward to seeing you again.